Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Guardian, watching the stars through the main window. His ship had been traveling through space for 3 months now. They were the first humans to come this far from Earth. The mission was simple: explore new worlds and look for signs of life. Jake was a tall man with short brown hair and kind eyes. He had served in the Earth military for 15 years before taking this job. The crew trusted him because he always made good decisions, even when things got dangerous. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Amy Carter from her station. Amy was the ship's doctor and also studied alien life forms. She had blonde hair tied back and wore the blue uniform of the medical team. "I'm getting a strange signal on the long-range sensors." Jake walked over to her station. "What kind of signal?" Amy looked at her screen with worry. "It's a distress call, but not from any human ship. The patterns are completely different from anything we've seen before." The bridge became quiet. Everyone knew what this meant. They might have found proof that other intelligent life existed in the universe. Jake felt his heart beat faster, but he kept his voice calm. "Can you tell where it's coming from?" he asked. "About 2 hours away at full speed," Amy replied. "The signal is weak and getting weaker." Jake thought for a moment. Their mission was to explore, but they also had a duty to help anyone in trouble. "Set course for the signal. Maximum speed." The Guardian's engines roared to life, pushing the ship forward through space. As they got closer, their sensors picked up more details. There was definitely a ship out there, but it was badly damaged. "Captain, you need to see this," said Lieutenant Ben Parker, the ship's scanner operator. He was a young man with red hair who was very good with technology. "The ship we're approaching, it's huge, much bigger than ours." Jake looked at the main screen as it showed the alien vessel. His mouth fell open. The ship was 3 times the size of the Guardian. It had a sleek design with curved lines and was colored silver and gold, but large parts of it were black and twisted from damage. "There are life signs aboard," Amy reported. "Very faint. Whoever is on that ship won't last much longer." Jake made his decision quickly. "Prepare the boarding party. Amy, bring your medical kit. Ben, you're with us. We're going over there." 20 minutes later, Jake, Amy, and Ben put on their spacesuits and entered the small shuttle that would take them to the alien ship. As they got closer, they could see the damage was even worse than they thought. Huge holes were burned through the ship's side. "How do we get in?" Ben asked, looking at the strange ship. Amy pointed to one of the holes. "There. We can fit through that opening." They guided their shuttle through the hole and found themselves in what looked like a cargo bay. The air was thin but breathable according to their suit's sensors. They took off their helmets and looked around. The inside of the ship was beautiful, even with all the damage. The walls were made of a white metal that seemed to glow softly. Strange symbols were carved into the surfaces. Everything was built on a larger scale than human ships, as if the people who made it were much taller. "This way," Amy said, following her medical scanner. "The life sign is coming from that direction." They walked through several rooms, stepping over broken pieces of the ship. The damage was everywhere. Whatever had attacked this vessel had been very powerful. Finally, they reached what looked like the ship's medical bay, and there, lying on a table that was too big for humans, was their first alien. Jake stopped breathing for a moment. The being was definitely not human, but it was also beautiful in a way he had never imagined. She was tall, maybe 7 feet, with pale blue skin that had silver markings. Her hair was long and white like starlight. She wore clothes that looked like armor, but made of materials Jake had never seen. She's dying, Amy whispered, checking her scanner. Severe burns, internal bleeding, and her heart is barely beating. The alien's eyes opened slowly. They were a deep purple color and seemed to glow with their own light. When she saw the humans, she tried to speak but only made soft sounds they couldn't understand. "It's okay," Jake said gently, even though he knew she probably couldn't understand him. "We're here to help." Amy was already working, using her medical tools to check the alien's condition. "Jake, this is bad, really bad. She needs help right now or she'll die in the next few minutes." "Can you save her?" Jake asked. Amy shook her head sadly. "I don't know anything about her biology. I don't know what medicines will work or what might hurt her. And even if I did, the damage is too severe for field medicine." The alien woman reached out with one hand. Her fingers were longer than human fingers, and her skin felt warm when Jake took her hand. She squeezed his hand weakly and looked into his eyes. Even though they couldn't speak the same language, Jake understood. She was asking for help. "There has to be something we can do," Jake said. Amy looked at her medical equipment, then at the alien woman, then back at Jake. "There might be one thing, but it's very dangerous. Tell me." "Her body is trying to heal itself, but it doesn't have enough strength. If we could give her something to boost her healing." Amy paused. "Human blood has properties that might help, but we don't know what it would do to either of you." Jake didn't hesitate. "Do it." "Jake, you could die. We don't know if human blood is poisonous to her species or what it might do to you." The alien woman's grip on his hand was getting weaker. Her breathing was becoming shallow. Jake looked into her purple eyes and saw intelligence, kindness, and fear. "She's someone's daughter," Jake said quietly. "Maybe someone's sister or friend. If we don't try, she'll definitely die. I can't live with that." Amy nodded slowly. She understood. This was why they had come to space, not just to explore, but to make contact and hopefully make friends with other life in the universe. All. "Right," Amy said, getting her equipment ready. "But if this goes wrong—" "It won't," Jake said, though he wasn't sure he believed it himself. As Amy prepared for the procedure, the alien woman kept looking at Jake. There was something in her eyes now, hope. She seemed to understand that these strange beings from another world were trying to save her life. Jake hoped he was making the right choice. In a few minutes, they would either save the first alien they had ever met, or they would both die trying. But looking at her face, he knew he couldn't choose differently. The fate of two species was about to change forever. Amy Carter had never been more nervous in her life. She looked at the equipment in her hands, then at Captain Jake Morrison, then at the dying alien woman on the medical table. Everything about this situation was wrong, according to her medical training, but everything about it also felt right. "Are you sure about this, Jake?" she asked one more time. Jake rolled up his sleeve and sat down next to the alien woman. "I'm sure. How do we do this?" Amy took a deep breath. "I'll connect your blood systems directly. It's risky because we don't know how your blood will react with hers, but it's the only chance she has." The alien woman watched them with her glowing, purple eyes. She seemed to understand what they were planning to do. When Jake looked at her, she made a soft sound that might have been her way of saying thank you. Amy inserted a small tube into Jake's arm, then another into the alien woman's arm. "This is it," she said. "Once I connect these tubes, there's no going back." "Do it," Jake said. Amy connected the tubes. Immediately, Jake's red human blood began flowing into the alien woman's body. At first, nothing happened. Then the alien woman's eyes went wide, and her body began to shake. "Something's wrong," Amy said, reaching for the tubes to disconnect them. "Wait," Jake said. He was feeling strange, too. His vision was becoming sharper, and he could hear sounds he had never noticed before. I think it's working." The alien woman's pale blue skin began to glow brighter. The silver markings on her arms and face started to shimmer like liquid metal. Her breathing became stronger and deeper. But something was happening to Jake, too. He felt a warm sensation spreading through his body. His muscles felt stronger, his mind felt clearer, and strangest of all, he began to sense things that weren't there before. "Amy," he said slowly. "I can feel her thoughts." Amy looked at her medical scanner in amazement. "Both of your vital signs are getting stronger. The alien woman's injuries are healing much faster than they should be able to. And Jake, your body is changing too." The alien woman sat up slowly on the medical table. She was still weak, but she was definitely alive and getting better. She looked at Jake with wonder in her eyes, then placed her hand on his forehead. Suddenly, Jake's mind was filled with images and feelings that weren't his own. He saw a beautiful world with purple skies and silver cities. He saw the alien woman as a child, playing in gardens filled with flowers that glowed like stars. He saw her as a grown woman, wearing royal clothes and speaking to thousands of people who looked up to her with respect and love. "You're a princess," Jake whispered. The alien woman nodded. Then she touched her own forehead and closed her eyes. When she opened them again, she spoke in perfect English. "My name is Zarathiel," she said, her voice soft but strong. "I am the daughter of the High Regent of the Calarian Empire, and you, Jake Morrison, have just saved not only my life, but possibly the future of both our peoples." Amy dropped her medical scanner in shock. "You can speak our language?" Zarathiel smiled. "Through the blood bond with Jake, I now have access to his memories and knowledge, just as he now has access to some of mine." She looked at Jake. "You can feel it, can't you? The connection between us?" Jake nodded. It was true. He could sense Zarathiel's emotions and thoughts, though not all of them. It was like having a new sense he had never had before. "This is incredible. How is this possible? My people, the Calarians, have very old genetics," Zarathiel explained as she stood up from the table. She was indeed very tall, at least 7 feet, but she moved with grace despite her size. "We can form bonds with other beings, but only with those who are genetically compatible. In all our history, we have never found another species that could bond with us." "Until now," Amy said, staring at both of them. "Until now." Zarathiel agreed. "Your human blood has properties that work perfectly with Calarian biology. Not only did it heal me, but it has awakened abilities in both of us that we never had before." Jake stood up and realized he felt different. He was stronger, faster, and his senses were much sharper than before. When he looked at Amy, he could almost sense what she was thinking. "What kind of abilities?" he asked. Zarathiel walked to the other side of the room, then turned back to face him. "Try to sense where I am without looking." Jake closed his eyes. Immediately he could feel Zarathiel's presence like a warm light in his mind. He could tell exactly where she was standing and even what direction she was facing. "Amazing," he whispered. "The bond works both ways," Zarathiel said. "I now have some human traits, too." I can feel emotions more strongly than any Calarian ever has. I can understand concepts like mercy and compassion in ways my people struggle with. Amy was taking notes as fast as she could. This is the greatest scientific discovery in human history. Two completely different species that can actually share genetics and abilities. But Zarathiel's expression became serious. It is also very dangerous. My people, the Calarians, believe they are superior to all other life forms. For thousands of years, we have conquered or avoided other species because we saw them as inferior. If my father and the other leaders learn that humans can bond with us, they'll see it as a threat, Jake finished. Or as an opportunity, Zarathiel said. Some will want to study you and learn from you. Others will want to destroy you before you can challenge our beliefs about ourselves. Ben Parker, who had been quiet during the whole procedure, finally spoke up. Princess Zarathiel, what happened? To your ship? Who attacked you? Zarathiel's face showed pain, but not from her physical injuries. Rebels from our own empire. There are Calarians who believe our leaders have become too soft, too willing to avoid conflict with other species. They think we should conquer the entire galaxy and rule over everyone else. And they attacked you because? Amy asked. Because I have been arguing for a different path. I believe we should try to make friends with other species instead of conquering them. The rebels see me as a traitor to our way of life. Zarathiel looked at Jake. They would hate what has happened here even more than the conservatives in our government. Jake felt a chill run down his spine, and he realized some of it was coming from Zarathiel through their bond. So we've made you even more of a target. No, Zarathiel said firmly. You have given me proof that I was right. Humans and Calarians can work together. We can be stronger together than either of us could be alone. She smiled at both Jake and Amy. This bond between us is not a weakness. It is the future. Amy looked up from her notes. But what happens now? We can't keep this secret forever. Jake felt Zarathiel's thoughts mixing with his own, and suddenly he knew the answer. We go public. We tell both our peoples what happened here and show them that cooperation is possible. That's incredibly dangerous, Amy said. Both species might see this as a threat. Maybe, Zarathiel agreed, but the alternative is worse. If we hide this, the rebels will eventually find us and try to kill us both. And if our governments find out later, they'll never trust each other. Jake stood up and walked to the window that looked out into space. He could feel Zarathiel's presence behind him, warm and reassuring. The bond between them felt natural, now, like it had always been there. Then we'll face whatever comes together, he said. Human and Calarian, as partners. Zarathiel placed her hand on his shoulder. As partners, she agreed. Amy looked at both of them and shook her head in amazement. You two are either going to start a war or create the greatest alliance in galactic history. Jake smiled. Through his bond with Zarathiel, he could feel her determination and hope mixing with his own. Let's make sure it's the alliance. As they prepared to return to the Guardian, none of them knew that both human and Calarian ships were already heading their way. Word of the distress signal had reached both species' military forces, and first contact was about to become much more complicated. But Jake and Zarathiel faced the future together, connected by blood and trust, ready to show the galaxy that two very different peoples could become one. 2 days after the blood bond, warning signals began flashing on the Guardian's bridge. Jake Morrison stood next to Princess Zarathiel, both of them watching the main screen with growing concern. The bond between them let Jake feel Zarathiel's worry as if it were his own. Captain, Lieutenant Ben Parker called out from his station. I'm detecting multiple ships approaching our position. Some are human, but the others... Kalarian, Zarathiel finished, her voice tight with tension. A full battle fleet by the size of the signatures. Amy Carter looked up from her medical station where she had been studying the changes in both Jake and Zarathiel. How did they find us so fast? Both our species have been monitoring this sector, Jake explained. When the Guardian went silent, for 2 days, Earth would have sent ships to investigate. And the Kalarians... My people would have been tracking my ship, Zarathiel said. When they couldn't contact me after the attack, they would have sent the military to search for me. Through the bridge windows, they could see lights appearing in the distance. Ships were dropping out of faster-than-light travel all around them. Jake counted at least 6 human vessels and 8 Kalarian ones. Both fleets were taking defensive positions, with the Guardian and Zarathiel's damaged ship caught in the middle. Incoming transmission from the human fleet, Ben reported. Put it through, Jake ordered. The main screen showed Admiral Kyle Bennett, Jake's former commanding officer and an old friend. Bennett was a gray-haired man with a serious face and the kind of experience that came from 30 years in space. Jake, what's your status? Bennett asked without any greeting. We've been trying to contact you for 2 days. We're fine, Admiral, but we have a situation here that's... Jake paused, looking at Zarathiel. It's complicated. I can see that. There are alien ships surrounding us, and our sensors are picking up life signs that aren't human aboard your vessel. Bennett's eyes narrowed. Have you been taken prisoner? No, Admiral. Quite the opposite, actually. Before Jake could explain further, another voice filled the bridge. This one was deeper and spoke with an accent that made the words sound like music. The translation came through their computers, but Jake could understand it directly through his bond with Zarathiel. Human vessels, you will surrender the criminals who have violated our princess and prepare to be boarded for inspection. Zarathiel stepped forward so the camera could see her. Uncle Vexithar, these humans saved my life. They are not criminals. The Kalarian general who appeared on screen was even taller than Zarathiel, with darker blue skin and silver armor that gleamed like starlight. His eyes were the same purple color as Zarathiel's, but they burned with anger. Niece, what have these inferior beings done to you? You speak their primitive language and stand beside them as an equal. This is not the behavior of Kalarian royalty. Jake felt Zarathiel's anger flare through their bond. Inferior beings? Uncle, these humans risked their lives to save mine when I was dying. They showed courage and compassion that would honor any Kalarian warrior. Admiral Bennett broke in. I don't know what's going on here, but I want my people back on human ships immediately. Jake, bring your crew home now. Admiral, with respect, I need to explain what's happened here. We've made first contact and it's resulted in something incredible. Jake, Bennett's voice carried a warning. You're talking to aliens without authorization. That's a court-martial offense. General Vexthar spoke again. Princess Zarathiel will return to Kalarian custody immediately. The humans will be examined to determine what contamination they may have suffered from contact with superior Kalarian biology. Contamination? Amy spoke up angrily. We saved her life! Zarathiel placed a calming hand on Amy's shoulder. Through the bond, Jake felt her making a difficult decision. Uncle, Admiral Bennett, both of you need to know the truth. Zarathiel stood straight and spoke with the authority of someone born to rule. Captain Morrison gave his blood to save my life, and in doing so, we have formed a genetic bond that... Proves our species are compatible." The silence that followed was deafening. Jake could see the shock on Admiral Bennett's face and the rage building on General Vexithar's. "That's impossible," Bennett whispered. "That's blasphemy," Vexithar roared. "Kalarian blood cannot be mixed with lesser species. You have been deceived or drugged by these humans." Jake stepped forward. "General, Admiral, I know this is hard to believe, but what Princess Zarathiel says is true. The bond between us has given us both new abilities and proved that our species can work together." "Prove it," Bennett demanded. Jake looked at Zarathiel, who nodded. They stood on opposite sides of the bridge, then Jake closed his eyes. Through their bond, he could sense exactly where Zarathiel was and what she was thinking. She was remembering her childhood on the Kalarian homeworld, and Jake found himself seeing images of purple skies and crystal cities. "She's thinking about her home," Jake said with his eyes still closed. "There are floating gardens there with flowers that sing in the wind." Zarathiel smiled. "And Jake is remembering his first day at the military academy on Earth. He was nervous about making friends, but determined to prove himself worthy of exploring space." Both admirals stared in amazement, but General Vexthar's anger only grew stronger. "This is an abomination," he snarled. "Kalarian genetics have been pure for 10,000 years. To mix them with primitive human biology is treason against our entire species." "Uncle, you're wrong," Zarathiel said firmly. "The bond has made us both stronger, not weaker. Jake has gained Kalarian abilities, and I have gained human compassion and creativity." "Compassion is weakness," Vexthar replied. "Creativity is chaos. These are not improvements." Admiral Bennett was studying both Jake and Zarathiel carefully. "Jake, you've been my friend for 15 years. I need to know, are you still thinking clearly? Are you still human?" Jake felt the question like a punch to his stomach. "I'm still me, Admiral, but I'm also more than I was before. The bond doesn't change who we are. It adds to what we can be." Amy stepped forward with her medical scanner. "Admiral, I've been monitoring both of them since the procedure. Their brain activity has increased, their physical abilities have improved, and their emotional intelligence has expanded. They're not losing their humanity or their Kalarian nature. They're gaining the best of both." Dr. Lisa Hayes, a woman Jake didn't recognize, appeared next to Admiral Bennett on the screen. She was obviously a scientist, with short black hair and intelligent eyes behind thin glasses. "Captain Morrison, I'm Dr. Hayes, head of xenobiology research for Earth's exploration program. What you're describing should be impossible. Different species cannot share genetic material safely." "But we did," Zarathiel said, "and the results speak for themselves." General Vexthar's patience finally broke. "Enough, Princess. You will return to the Kalarian fleet immediately for medical treatment and genetic cleansing. The humans will be destroyed for their violation of royal blood." "No," Zarathiel said quietly, but her voice carried absolute authority. "I am heir to the Kalarian throne, and I will not be cleansed of something that has made me stronger and wiser." "Then you are no longer fit to rule," Vexthar declared. The threat in his words was clear. Jake felt Zarathiel's pain through their bond and realized that her own family was turning against her because she had bonded with a human. Admiral Bennett spoke up. "General, if you threaten my people or attack the Guardian, the entire human fleet will respond. Your pathetic ships are no match for Kalarian technology," Vexthar replied. The situation was spiraling toward violence. Jake could feel the tension building on both sides, and through his bond with Zarathiel, he could sense her desperation to prevent a war. "There has to be another way," Jake said. Suddenly, Ben Parker's voice cut through the argument. "Captain, I'm detecting another group of ships approaching. These are definitely Kalarian, but they're not with the General's fleet." Zarathiel went pale. "The rebels! Kethmore has found us." On the screen, General Vexthar's expression changed from anger to alarm. "Impossible! How did those traitors track us here?" "The same way you did," a new voice said as another transmission broke through. The Kalarian who appeared on screen was scarred and wore black armor instead of silver. His eyes burned with hatred. "Hello, Princess. Ready to die for your weakness?" Commander Kethmore's ships were approaching fast, and they were already charging their weapons. Jake realized that the argument between the human and Kalarian fleets had become the least of their problems. "Admiral." "General," he said urgently, "we can argue about politics later. Right now, we have a common enemy heading straight for us." Through his bond with Zarathiel, Jake felt her fear and determination mixing together. The rebels wanted to kill her, not just for her political beliefs, but now for proving that Kalarians could bond with other species. They would see the alliance as the ultimate betrayal of everything they believed in. The next few hours would determine whether first contact between humans and Kalarians would end in friendship or war. The first blast from Commander Kethmore's rebel ships lit up space like a deadly firework. Jake Morrison felt the Guardian shake under his feet as enemy fire passed close to their hull. Through his bond with Princess Zarathiel, he could sense her fierce determination mixed with deep sadness that her own people were trying to kill her. "All ships, defensive positions!" Admiral Bennett's voice crackled over the communications system. "Protect the Guardian!" General Vexthar's reply surprised everyone. "Kalarian fleet, engage the rebels! Protect the princess!" Uncle Zarathiel said through the open channel, "You're willing to fight beside humans?" "I may not approve of your choices," Vexthar replied stiffly, "but you are still my niece and the rightful heir to the throne. I will not let these rebel scum harm you." Jake watched in amazement as human and Kalarian ships moved together to form a protective wall around the Guardian. It was the first time in history that two different species had fought side by side. "Jake," Amy called out from her station, "the rebels have us outnumbered. Their ships are more advanced than ours, and they're not holding back." Another blast rocked the ship. This time, Jake felt real fear through his bond with Zarathiel. But mixed with that fear was something else, a strange calmness and clarity that seemed to come from their connection. "Ben, get us closer to the battle," Jake ordered. "Captain, we're not a warship," Ben protested. "We don't have weapons that can fight those rebel vessels." "We have something better," Zarathiel said, moving to stand beside Jake. "We have each other." Jake understood immediately. Through their bond, he and Zarathiel could coordinate in ways that no one else could. They could think and react as one person while still keeping their individual strengths. "Amy, take the engineering station," Jake ordered. "Ben, you're on navigation. Princess, can you handle the communications?" "I can coordinate with both fleets," Zarathiel replied. "Through our bond, I can relay your tactical ideas instantly." The Guardian moved into the battle, dodging between larger ships as human and Kalarian vessels exchanged fire with the rebels. Jake found that his enhanced reflexes, gained from the blood bond, allowed him to anticipate enemy movements before they happened. "Kalarian cruiser Stormwing, "Rebel fighter approaching from your port side," Zarathiel called out, somehow knowing what Jake was seeing through their connection. The Calarian ship turned just in time to avoid a devastating attack. "Human destroyer Newton, 3 rebel ships are trying to flank you," Jake added, sensing the tactical situation through Zarathiel's enhanced awareness. Admiral Bennett's voice came through the communications. "Jake, how are you seeing these attacks? Before they happen?" "The bond, Admiral. Zarathiel and I can process information together faster than either of us could alone." Dr. Lisa Hayes, who was aboard Bennett's flagship, broke in with excitement. "Incredible! You're functioning as a unified tactical system while maintaining separate consciousness. This is unprecedented." But the battle was far from won. Commander, Kethmore's flagship, a massive black vessel called the Death's Honor, was cutting through the Allied fleet like a sword through paper. Its weapons were more powerful than anything the humans had ever seen. "That ship is heading straight for us," Ben reported with fear in his voice. Jake felt Zarathiel's anger flare through their bond. "Kethmore wants to destroy the Guardian to prove that humans are weak and unworthy of alliance with Calarians." "Then let's prove him wrong," Jake said grimly. Through their connection, Jake and Zarathiel began to work together in ways that amazed even them. Jake's human creativity combined with Zarathiel's Calarian tactical knowledge created strategies that neither species had ever imagined. "Amy, can you overload our sensors to create a massive electromagnetic pulse?" Jake asked. "That would blind us too," Amy protested. "Not if Zarathiel guides us through her connection to the Calarian fleet's sensors," Jake replied. Amy's eyes widened with understanding. "That's brilliant and completely insane." "Do it," Zarathiel said calmly. The Guardian's sensors overloaded in a burst of energy that temporarily blinded every ship in the area. But through her bond with Jake and her natural Calarian abilities, Zarathiel could still sense where every vessel was located. "Ben, turn 15 degrees left. Increase speed," she directed. "Amy, prepare to restore sensors in 30 seconds. Flying blind, the Guardian slipped past the rebel fleet's defenses and positioned itself directly behind the Death's Honor. "Sensors back online," Amy announced. They were now so close to Kethmore's flagship that they could see individual windows on its hull. Jake opened a direct communication channel. "Commander Kethmore, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the human Vessel Guardian." The scarred rebel leader appeared on their main screen, his face twisted with rage. "Human scum! You have corrupted our princess and weakened our empire. For that crime, you will die slowly." "The only crime here is your refusal to see the truth," Zarathiel said, stepping into view. "The bond between humans and Calarians makes us stronger, not weaker." "Lies," Kethmore roared. "You have been brainwashed by inferior beings, but I will free you from their influence by destroying them all." Jake felt a plan forming in his mind, shaped by both his human intuition and Zarathiel's Calarian wisdom. "Commander, you claim humans are inferior. Prove it. Face me in single combat." The bridge of the Guardian went silent. Amy stared at Jake, as if he had lost his mind. Kethmore laughed coldly. "A human challenging a Calarian warrior? You are either very brave or very stupid." "Maybe both," Jake admitted. "But if you're so sure of Calarian superiority, what do you have to fear from one human?" Zarathiel understood Jake's plan through their bond. "Uncle Vexisthar, Admiral Bennett, witness this challenge. Let single combat decide whether our peoples can be allies or must remain enemies." Kethmore's pride wouldn't let him refuse. "Very well, human. We will dock our ships. You and I will fight with traditional Kalarian weapons. When I kill you, the princess will see how weak your species truly is." 20 minutes later, Jake stood in the cargo bay of the Guardian, facing Commander Kethmore across a space that had been cleared for combat. The rebel leader was even more intimidating in person, nearly 8 feet tall, covered in scars, and carrying a weapon that looked like a glowing sword. Jake held a similar weapon, though it felt awkward in his human hands. Through their bond, he could sense Zarathiel's fear for his safety, but also her confidence in him. "Are you ready to die, human?" Kethmore snarled. "Are you ready to learn something new about humans?" Jake replied. The fight began with Kethmore's furious attack. His glowing sword swept through the air with deadly precision, and Jake barely managed to block the first few strikes. The rebel commander was faster and stronger than any human could hope to be, but Jake had advantages that Kethmore didn't expect. Through his bond with Zarathiel, he could anticipate attacks a split second before they came. His enhanced reflexes, gained from Kalarian genetics, allowed him to move faster than any normal human. Most importantly, Jake fought with a combination of human unpredictability and Kalarian honor that confused his opponent. "Impossible," Kethmore growled as Jake successfully blocked another attack. "No human should be able to match a Kalarian warrior." "That's where you're wrong," Jake said, pressing his own attack. "I'm not just human anymore, and Zarathiel isn't just Kalarian. We're something new." The fight continued for several minutes, with neither gaining a clear advantage. But slowly, Jake began to realize that his bond with Zarathiel was giving him more than just enhanced abilities. He was learning to think like a Kalarian warrior while keeping his human flexibility. Finally, Jake saw his opening. Instead of blocking Kethmore's next attack, he used a human martial arts technique to redirect the strike, then followed up with a Kalarian honor blow that Zarathiel had shown him through their mental connection. Kethmore's weapon went flying across the cargo bay. The rebel commander stood defenseless, staring at Jake in shock. "How?" he whispered. "Because humans and Kalarians are stronger together than either of us is alone," Jake said, lowering his weapon. "The bond between species doesn't make us weaker. It makes us capable of things neither of us could achieve separately." Kethmore looked around the cargo bay at the humans and Kalarians who had been watching the fight. For the first time, doubt appeared in his eyes. "You fight with honor," he said slowly. "Both human and Kalarian honor." "Because both species have honor," Zarathiel said, stepping forward. "Different kinds, perhaps, but honor nonetheless." Kethmore knelt on the floor of the cargo bay, a gesture of surrender that surprised everyone present. I may have been wrong about humans." Admiral Bennett and General Vexthar, who had been watching through video feeds, both looked stunned. "Jake," Bennett said over the communicator, "what you just did should have been impossible." "A lot of impossible things have been happening lately," Jake replied, helping Kethmore to his feet. "Maybe it's time we started believing in new possibilities." General Vexthar spoke slowly, as if the words were difficult for him. "Captain Morrison, you have fought with honor and proven your worth as a warrior. Perhaps humans are not as inferior as we believed." Jake looked at Zarathiel and smiled. Through their bond, he could feel her joy and hope for the future. "We're not inferior or superior," he said. "We're just different, and are different." 6 months after the battle that changed everything, Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the new joint human-Kalarian space station called Unity Point. Through the massive windows, he could see ships from both species working together to build something that had never existed before, a place where two different peoples could meet as equals. Princess Zarathiel joined him at the window, her purple eyes reflecting the lights of the construction work outside. The bond between them had grown stronger over the months, but they had also learned to give each other space to remain individuals. "The Council of Both Worlds meets tomorrow," she said softly. "Are you ready?" Jake smiled. "As ready as anyone can be to help write the rules for the first interspecies alliance in galactic history." Their relationship had become something unique in the universe. They were partners in diplomacy, bonded by blood and genetics, but also friends who respected each other's differences. Jake remained fully human, and Zarathiel remained fully Calarian, but together they had access to the best qualities of both species. "Captain Morrison, Princess Zarathiel," a voice called from behind them. They turned to see Dr. Lisa Hayes approaching with a tablet full of data. Over the past months, she had become the lead scientist studying the human Calarian genetic compatibility. "Dr. Hayes," Jake greeted her. "How are the new volunteers doing?" "Remarkably well," Lisa replied with excitement. "We now have 12 human Calarian bonded pairs, and each one is showing the same positive results you two demonstrated: enhanced abilities, improved emotional intelligence, and perfect coordination between partners." The bonding process had been refined and made safer since Jake's emergency transfusion with Zarathiel. Now volunteers from both species could form bonds in controlled medical environments. Not everyone was compatible. The genetic requirements were very specific, but those who could bond found their lives transformed. "Any problems?" Zarathiel asked. "Actually, quite the opposite," Lisa said. "The bonded pairs are becoming our best ambassadors. When people see humans and Calarians working together so naturally, it breaks down the fear and prejudice on both sides." Jake nodded. It was true. The sight of bonded pairs had done more to promote understanding between the species than any amount of political speeches or treaties. Amy Carter approached the group, wearing the new blue and silver uniform that marked her as a member of the Joint Medical Research Team. "Jake, Zarathiel, you need to see this." She led them to the station's communication center, where a large screen showed Admiral Bennett and General Vexthar sitting together at the same table. Both looked serious, but pleased. "What's the news?" Jake asked. "The Calarian High Regent has officially recognized the Human-Calarian Alliance," Bennett announced. "More importantly, 3 other alien species have requested meetings with our joint diplomatic team." Zarathiel's eyes widened. 3 other species? General Vexthar, who had become one of the strongest supporters of the Alliance after seeing the results of cooperation, nodded grimly. "The Crystalline Confederation, the Void Swimmers, and the Hive Collective have all been watching our progress. They want to know if this alliance concept can work with other species too." Jake felt excitement and nervousness through his bond with Zarathiel. "Are they peaceful?" "Unknown," Bennett replied. "That's why we need our best diplomatic team to make first contact." Jake and Zarathiel exchanged glances. They both knew what this meant. "When do we leave?" Zarathiel asked. 2 days, Vexthar said. "But this time, you won't be going alone." The screen changed to show a new ship under construction in the Unity Point shipyards. It was unlike anything ever built before, combining human engineering with Calarian technology to create something entirely new. "The UES-KES Harmony," Amy said proudly, "the first ship designed by both species working together." The vessel was beautiful, with the flowing lines of Calarian design merged with the practical efficiency of human engineering. It was built to carry mixed crews and was equipped for both exploration and diplomacy. Commander Kethmore helped design the defensive systems, Vexthar added. Jake smiled at that news. The former rebel leader had become one of the most dedicated supporters of the Alliance after understanding how bonding worked. He now served as military advisor to the Joint Fleet. Speaking of the Joint Fleet, Bennett continued, we have some good news there too. The Shared Technology Program has produced some remarkable results. Lisa held up her tablet. Human creativity combined with Kalarian engineering has led to breakthroughs in faster-than-light travel, medical technology, and energy production. We're advancing faster together than either species ever did alone. But it wasn't just the technology that impressed Jake. Over the past months, he had watched both species change for the better. Humans were learning Kalarian concepts of honor and long-term thinking. Kalarians were discovering human ideas about compassion and individual freedom. There have been some problems too, Zarathiel admitted honestly. Not everyone from either species supports the Alliance. It was true. There were still humans who feared that bonding with Kalarians would somehow make them less human. There were still Kalarians who believed that cooperation with other species was a sign of weakness. But those voices are getting quieter every day, Jake said. When people see the results of cooperation, most of them come around. Ben Parker, who now served as the station's chief technical officer, joined the group. Jake, you should know that we received another message today. From who? Unknown species, but they used the same peaceful contact protocols that we established with the Kalarians. Ben's eyes shone with excitement. They said they've been watching what we've accomplished here and want to know if there's room for one more species in the Alliance. Jake felt his heart racing. Through his bond with Zarathiel, he could sense her own excitement and anticipation. Room for more? Jake repeated. That's the whole point, isn't it? To keep growing, keep learning, keep bringing different peoples together. Admiral Bennett smiled from the screen. That's exactly what the Council of Both Worlds hopes to establish tomorrow. Not just a human-Kalarian alliance, but a framework for bringing together any species that wants to cooperate instead of conquer. Dr. Hayes was taking notes rapidly. The genetic compatibility studies suggest that bonding might be possible with other species too, though each one would be different. Different how? Amy asked. Well, humans and Kalarians share warrior cultures and exploration instincts, which made bonding natural. Other species might share different traits: scientific curiosity, artistic creativity, or spiritual wisdom. Jake walked back to the observation window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, other intelligent species were waiting to see if the human-Kalarian alliance would welcome them or reject them. Zarathiel, he said quietly, when we first bonded, did you ever imagine it would lead to this? She joined him at the window. When I was dying on my ship, I thought I would never see another sunrise. You didn't just save my life, Jake. You showed me that the universe is much bigger and more wonderful than I had ever dreamed. The feeling is mutual, Jake replied. Bonding with you taught me that being human doesn't mean being alone. It means being part of something larger. Amy, Ben, and Lisa joined them at the window. They all stood together, looking out at the bustling activity of the space station and the ships beyond. You know what the best part is? Amy said thoughtfully. 6 months ago, we were just 3 humans on an exploration mission. Now we're part of an alliance that could include dozens of species. And it all started because someone was willing to take a risk. Ben added, looking at Jake. You could have died giving your blood to save a complete alien stranger. But he didn't die, Zarathiel said softly. We both became something more than we were before. Jake felt the truth of that statement through their bond. He was still completely human with all his human thoughts and feelings and dreams. But he was also connected to a larger universe in ways he had never imagined possible. A soft chime announced an incoming message. The main screen showed a ship approaching Unity Point, but this one was different from any human or Calarian vessel, unknown. Ship, this is Unity Point Control, Ben said into his communicator. Please identify yourself. The response came in a voice that sounded like wind chimes mixed with ocean waves. Greetings, people of the Human Calarian Alliance. We are representatives of the Crystalline Confederation. We come seeking friendship and understanding. Jake smiled and squeezed Zarathiel's hand. Through their bond, he could feel her joy and excitement matching his own. Unity Point Control to unknown vessel, Jake said, stepping up to the communicator. This is Captain Jake Morrison and Princess Zarathiel, diplomatic representatives of the Alliance. You are welcome here. We look forward to meeting you, the crystalline voice replied. We have heard much about the bonding between your species. We hope to learn if such cooperation is possible with our people as well. Jake looked around at his friends. Human and Calarian, bonded and unbonded, all working together to build something amazing. Permission to dock granted, he said. Let's see what new wonders the universe has in store for us. As the alien ship approached Unity Point, Jake realized that this was just the beginning. The bond between one human and one Calarian had started a chain.